Are we ready? I'm very pleased this morning to announce with Commissioner Clark Sieben the beginning of the Angel Loan Fund, which will be a complement to the Angel Tax Credit, which has been very successful and highly used and was expanded by the legislature in the last session. For the last 2 years, we've had a Access to Capital Task Force headed by Mr. Ed Spencer, to look at what are the needs of businesses, particularly small businesses that are trying to get started, established, and expand in Minnesota. And one of the principal voids that they identified was the lack of access to capital, especially in this beginning stage where they are often on the knife's edge and depend on getting additional financing at acceptable terms in order to be able to move ahead. So this program addresses that, and Commissioner, I'll let you take it from there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, good morning. As Governor Dayton said, we are pleased to announce the launch of a new loan program to support Minnesota's small businesses. This $6.7 million Angel Loan Fund will provide assistance to Minnesota's small businesses and entrepreneurs in the early stages of business development, a critical point in the business life cycle. The Angel Loan Fund will provide interest-free loans of up to $250,000 with a one-time repayment at the end of a 7-year term that entrepreneurs can use for startup costs, working capital, inventory expenses, franchise funding, equipment loans, business acquisitions, expansions, and more. The Angel Loan Fund is part of a larger program, the State Small Business Credit Initiative, from which Minnesota received a total of $15 million to support Minnesota's small businesses and entrepreneurs. The State Small Business Credit Initiative stimulates private sector lending and improves access to capital for small businesses and manufacturers that are creditworthy but having challenges obtaining the loans they need to expand and create jobs. Across all 4 state small business credit initiative programs, the goal is that for every $1 of public investment, businesses attract $10 in private investment. These programs are expected to leverage an additional $150 million in lending and create 3,000 new jobs in Minnesota. The Angel Loan Fund is closely tied to our very popular Angel Tax Credit Program, which provides a 25% tax to qualified investors investing in high-tech startup businesses in the state. The Angel Tax Credit Program has been a huge success and is in great demand, delivering more than $137 million in investments to Minnesota startups since it was launched in July 2010. The $12.7 million available in 2013 through this program generated nearly $50 million in new investments. This year, we have $12 million available through this program in tax credits for investors and expect this full amount will be distributed as soon as April. Given this great demand for access to capital in the early stages of the business life cycle, we're pleased to officially launch an additional resource to grow small businesses, the Angel Loan Program, and encourage all Minnesota small businesses of 500 employees or less to apply on the DEED website. In today's competitive business environment and tight credit environment, it's crucial we maintain our commitment to growing small businesses in Minnesota. They are the lifeblood of our economy and spur thousands of new jobs each year. This fund will continue to grow jobs across our state and leverage additional private investment now and in the years to come. Thank you. And for now, we will open it up to questions.
Commissioner, you touched on it, but will you explain what kind of companies are eligible for this, in particular the number of employees, and are these the same ones who qualify for the Angel Tax Credit?
Yes, companies need to be qualified for the Angel Tax Credit Program in order to be eligible for the Angel Loan Fund. Some of the qualifications, 500 employees or less. They need to be headquartered in Minnesota and have at least 51% of their employees based here in Minnesota. There are additional qualifications that are listed on the DEED website.
Are these forgivable? I mean, what happens if a business doesn't take off?
These are expected to be repaid over a 7-year term, so one-time repayment of up to $250,000. If for some reason a business does not survive, there are pieces in place for the state to work with the company to make sure that money is recouped.
Clarify that we paid one time or over 7 years? You pay it at the end of the 7 years, you install it?
One-time balloon payment.
Okay.
Thank you, Lisa. There's
Lisa Dargis is a senior investment officer. Her name is on the contact with us, so she's going to be very popular all over the place. Hold the microphone so they can hear that response.
Yes, it is a one-time balloon payment at the end of the 7-year term.
Are there any requirements that they promise to add or create X many jobs in the state in order to qualify for this money?
No, the program itself, since it is funded through the State Small Business Credit Initiative, is really a private capital investment program, not necessarily a jobs program, but what we found is all of the programs that we've used the funding for have been doing quite well on the job front as well.
Commissioner, would you describe what kinds of companies these are that you're looking for that are applying for these? What do they do? What kind of jobs are these?
These are a wide variety of jobs and industries, so it could be anything, any small business with 500 employees or less, could be in the manufacturing sector. These are used for expansions, for equipment purchases, for a variety of purposes for the business, franchise funding. So it really is quite flexible funding for these small businesses, and with that 0% interest loan of up to $250,000 can be a critical piece that companies need in those early stages of development.
Are you surprised at the success of the Angel Tax Credit? And obviously you're hoping for something more here.
You know, we've been very pleased with the response we've received through the Angel Tax Credit Program. It's every year the disbursements are completed earlier each year. There's greater demand happening year after year, which shows exactly why we need this angel loan program, a second resource for small businesses in that critical stage of development. And the Angel Tax Credit Program is something we hope to see continue.
So can you get both? Can you get a loan and then qualify for the credit as well?
Yes.
You might see the credit goes to the investor and the loan goes to the business.
So with the Angel Tax Credit Program, the tax credit does go directly to the investor. With the Angel Loan Program, the company is receiving that loan directly.
How difficult is it going to be for a business to get one of these loans? Is there a way to talk about that? I mean,
you know, as long as they meet those qualifications, we have worked very hard to make sure that this is an easy, accessible program for small businesses. There's very clear information posted on our website. It's important to DEED and all of state government that businesses are easily able to access that information and apply. We've heard from businesses that have used our Angel Tax Credit Program that they've been very pleased with how quickly they've received a response. In some cases, they were surprised at how quickly they received a response. I recently talked to a company that received a response within 4 days from submitting their application for the Angel Tax Credit Program, and we're very, very pleased. So that's something that we're committed to doing for businesses.
And what's the magic in 6.7?
This is a federally funded program through the State Small Business Credit Initiative, which is a total of $15 million. So $6.7 million of the total $15 million is allocated towards the Angel loan program.
Governor, this is one more instrument of trying to grow more jobs. You note in the press release, and I'm wondering if you talk a little bit more about it. You said that 122,000 jobs have been created, essentially replacing the ones lost in the recession. Is the recession over?
Well, it's over for people who are back to work, that there are 140,000 Minnesotans who are still looking for work. And while we have an unemployment rate of 4.8%, which is one of the lowest in the nation, that's still not what anybody historically has claimed as full employment. So we're on the right track, and those numbers support that, but we have a lot more work to do. And these are programs that are going to encourage businesses to expand, and I agree with Ms. Dargis that they're going to, by expanding, be likely to create more jobs in Minnesota. Any questions on this? And if there are no other questions on any other subject, well, thank you very much. No, sit down, go. Thank you. Thanks very much. Thank you. What's up?
Any questions for the governor?
Well, Governor, there is a report this morning that the executive director of MNsure took a vacation to Costa Rica as everything is ramping up for the healthcare exchange. Are you okay with that?
Well, the executive director, by statute, operationally reports to the board. So whatever the employment arrangements are with the executive director or anybody else in the staff is ultimately the board's responsibility. I know that the executive director has worked extraordinarily hard for months now, probably most of the last year. And my understanding was this was a long planned vacation where, you know, financial commitments were made. I don't know enough of the details, but it's obviously a very critical time for MNsure, and that is ultimately her responsibility.
Well, particularly since people are scrambling for insurance and there are glitches, and you have some concerns about that as well. We're just a few weeks away.
Absolutely, and my concerns are just as I noted yesterday. That, you know, I think we're past the point where MNsure's problems are acceptable, and that people who are calling should be have prompt and efficient service, and that is ultimately the senior staff's responsibility of MNsure, and ultimately the board's responsibility, which we're making sure they are well aware of.
What concrete actions would you like MNsure to take to ensure that, you know, they're ready to go on?
Well, they need to fix these glitches. I'm not a computer expert. I don't know, you know, they need to be staffed up. I'm incredulous that they were as short of staff to receive these calls and inquiries as they apparently are by the number of people they're adding and are going to add. So they need to have that capacity to be responsive, and that's a human element. The computers themselves, in terms of the whatever is missing in the linkages with the health plans and others are beyond my level of technical expertise, but that's somebody's job, and I know there have been a couple of issues with a couple of the vendors, the contractors, in terms of their responsibilities, and those need to be worked out. So, you know, and there's a lot that goes right there. It's, you know, it's unacceptable, the delays and the problems people are having. And yet it's also, you know, an enormously complex task. And if you look at Minnesota compared to the federal program, I mean, we're way ahead of what 36 other states are experiencing, who had the small business part of the exchange program put off for a year. Minnesota, we have our small business program working, and it's actually been found to be one of the major beneficiaries of the program are small businesses that can get more affordable health coverage for their employees through the health exchange. And, you know, if you look at the 14 state-run exchanges, you know, I read a lot about it, and I see the ones that are cited as having the best performance and the ones that are cited as having the worst performance. And generally speaking, Minnesota's not in either category, which says to me that of the 14, we're somewhere in the middle, and that's, you know, that's not good enough. It means we're probably better than what 40 to 42 to 3 other states are experiencing, but it's not good enough, and we've got to do it better, and that's my responsibility, that's the board's responsibility, that's the executive staff of MNsure's responsibility, and believe me, everybody feels that responsibility very acutely. And we're going to work on it. We have a conference call this afternoon. We had one on Tuesday. We have 2 to 3 conference calls a week with the senior staff and others involved, and a couple of the board members, the leadership are there. So believe me, it's constantly on my mind, and it's constantly on their mind, and we're going to continue to work around the clock until it's perfect.
Governor, are you responding to media coverage of the glitches, or is your office actually getting calls from the public about this?
I'm not aware of getting calls. You do get calls.
And we respond to them.
Quickly.
Well, do you have full confidence in the MNsure board and the executive leadership there to get this problem fixed?
let's see how they perform in the next week, 10 days. I think this is a very critical period. I think one of the issues has been the board and even, my office being aware of what these problems are and the extent and the ones that are looming ahead. And we need to change that pattern. And so I would say board meets next Wednesday. I think the next week to 10 days will be critical, both in terms of the functioning of the operation, given the timetable, but also in terms of the capability of the senior staff and the board to manage the organization through this challenging time.
If people are unable to do what they need to do through Mansure, what happens?
Well, they have a good question. I mean, I'm told that on the website there's information about the alternatives people have if they are not getting through the Mansure system. Now, that shouldn't be necessary, but they can contact, that's where the call center is getting a lot of calls, and they are able to refer people. We have a whole group of people, a network around the state of people who are, trained and prepared to assist